Welcome back to the Square State Sandlot podcast. You got Bill and myself, Kyle, here. Got a pretty exciting podcast put together tonight. We're going to start off with a few rumblings about our teams, and then we'll get into our first guest, which is very exciting. To start off with, though, I wanted to talk about Cam Newton's release. I'd be lying if I said I was surprised, but I didn't see it happening in this fashion. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Bill? I was doing some reading on it today, but I'd love to hear what you think.
I was shocked. Like, quite literally, just when I saw that news, I was like, that can't be right. Obviously, I thought Mac was going to take over the starting job at some point this season. But I thought for sure they'd start Cam to start maybe the first 3 to 5 games, something like that, and then make the switch at some point. And really, like, I still think Cam is a starting quarterback on a team. I don't know where he's going to end up. I think the Patriots kind of did him a favor by cutting him right now rather than moving on from him later in the season, because now he can basically, he's a free agent, so he can basically pick a good fit for him, even if it is as a backup for right now. So,
do you know who I thought of right away, though?
Denver.
No.
Who?
I think they got a good thing with Bridgewater. I instantly thought of Houston.
Houston, he could start in Houston. I think the better
just
fit
because his play style
would be Washington football team, reuniting with Ron Rivera.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about that connection. They seem to be pretty happy with Fitzpatrick. I don't know.
Yeah, Fitzpatrick, obviously you know what you're going to get with him. A lot of ups and downs. Cam, I still feel like is an unknown commodity because he's obviously had 2 seasons in a row that he hasn't played very well. Actually, probably even 3 because of his shoulder. But by all accounts and how he was looking in preseason, I think he has probably overcome those shoulder injuries and maybe he's not going to be that gunslinger he was before, but he's still got the legs and still has a capable arm. So
I'm not a big fan of him, but he is still a very talented athlete. I find it very. I don't think there's a very large chance that he's not on a roster this year.
Yeah.
I think somebody will pick him up for, like you said, even if it's backup, what if, type thing. Like I said, I thought they would move on from Cam before the end of the season, but I did not see it playing out like this. I was the same way with you. When I saw the headline, I was like, what?
I mean, the more I read about it, the more it makes sense because they were blown away with how quick Mac has picked up the playbook and all that stuff. So if they feel like he gives them the better chance to win, then obviously it makes sense to move on from him. But the other portion of that is Bill actually has a ton of respect for Cam Newton. They have a great relationship. So I think, like I said, I think they're doing him a favor by letting him go now rather than delegating him to the bench.
Well, and knowing Belichick, I'm sure that's how it went down. Is they probably said, "Hey, we're giving the nod to Mac. Do you want to hang out and take backup duties for us?" Or I'm sure it was a conversation, not came in the room and got dealt what he got dealt.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. I mean, they're probably doing him a favor. And if they're that high on Mac, then they weren't going to play him anyways. So it's win-win, I guess.
Yeah.
A little surprising though.
Yeah. And with that, let's just move into our teams real quick, and then obviously we'll have Taryn coming on here shortly. So just want to talk about our teams and the cuts down to the 53-man roster. Let's just start with the Raiders. I've got some surprise cuts that I didn't see coming. John Brown, he didn't really play much in the preseason. They were giving a lot of reps to the younger guys, Dylan Stoner, a lot of the guys that they wanted to see. They actually went with 5 wide receivers, which really surprised me. And John Brown, basically, when he saw the writing on the wall that they're going to roll with the rookies, man, he would be like a very sparsely used wide receiver. He asked for his release, and they granted it. The other surprising releases I saw was Carl Joseph. We just brought him in on a 1-year contract. He's our former first-round pick. It looked like it was going to be a good fit for him, but he had some injuries during camp and wasn't able to play a lot. So I think they just did the whole best ability is availability, and he wasn't there. So one other side effect of that was I can't even remember his first name. I think it's Roderick Teamer. He came from a Gus Bradley system. He's played for Gus before, and he played pretty well in the preseason, so I think they gave him the nod over Carl as the third. So that was one that kind of caught me by surprise, and then John Brown. Not any really others. I think one that surprised me that they kept him on the roster was Jalen Richard. We've already talked about that, especially with Trey Regis, the preseason that he had. He just looked like a stud, and even Emmons, I thought, are probably better fits for the roster than Jalen Richard. He is probably going to hit the IR, so they might make that move later on. This year, I guess you can bring people off the IR list within 3 weeks, I think it is. So gives them a little more flexibility to get those guys on the practice squad, see what they've got still. And then when Richard comes up, if they want to make that move, they can, where they cut him. I think it makes all the sense in the world, especially if they're still working on KJ Wright, which they should be. Don't know if they still are. I watched the press conference for Mike Mayock, our GM. He actually paused the press conference because he had to take a call. I don't know what it was about, but I'm sure hoping it's some traction on KJ Wright. So we'll see what's going on with that. And then any potential signings, like I said, KJ Wright I'm hoping for. I'm also hoping we can sign from some of the cuts, either a guard or a tackle, and then possibly some linebacking help if we can't get KJ. So what do you got going on with your Steelers? How are they looking?
Well, I'm pretty happy with the 53 man. There's a couple, speaking of linebackers, pay attention to these names. Maybe they'll be available for you guys. No, I guess I'm not as surprised that they were cut. I just thought that they might find a role for them. Quincy Roche and Cassius Marsh both. They're not, wow factor linebacker end guys, but I thought they filled in well, and I was really excited to see Quincy, but I think Ingram coming in and things like that kind of pushed these guys out.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. I think if somebody picked up Quincy and had him as a backup linebacker, he might turn into something for somebody down the road. So I was a little surprised by that. Another one, which was kind of a funny situation, but Arthur Mollett got cut, and I was pretty excited about him. He's super, super physical guy. He came from the Jets, and I was really excited to see what he could do because he's got a little bit more of a veteran presence. And unfortunately, they cut him as well. When I saw that, I was a little bummed. But then, speaking of IR, we ended up putting Stephon Tuitt, who unfortunately his brother passed, and he's been dealing with that. He'll be on IR until really no idea. He's working through that process. So I wish him the best. I hope he, comes out of it positive, I guess, as positive as you can. And Zach Banner also went on IR. He had his ACL injury last year, played in one preseason game, but he hasn't practiced since. So I don't know if it's more of a just to be safe kind of thing. I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. But because of that, Arthur actually got brought back on our 53-man roster. So I'm pretty excited about that because we have Jason Pierre out he'll be our other corner, which is pushing Cam Sutton into the slot, and then Arthur will also be in the slot, so that gives us two guys with at least a couple years of experience in the slot, which is good. And lastly, Matthew Sexton, he's little tiny wide receiver. He was in on special teams a lot, and I really enjoyed watching him. I thought he maybe had some promise as a return guy. And unfortunately, we just have we have a very long depth at wide receiver, so I just don't think they could find room for him. So I was a little bummed about that. But I mean, he could easily be the next Wes Welker, Julian Edelman kind of guy. He's got those kind of feet on him. So interesting. We'll see where he lands, but I wish we could have found room for him. Maybe I didn't see if he made the practice squad. I don't think he did. But lastly, speaking of your Carl Joseph, we brought him into our practice squad.
Yeah.
And we'll see where that goes. I would not at all be, whether it's injury or somebody struggling, I would not be surprised to see him bumped up from the practice squad at some point during the year. So.
Yeah. Well, and I think if he sticks around on your practice squad for too long, someone else will swipe in and grab him. So.
Absolutely.
Who do you have on your team for? Well, let's do this. Someone you are looking forward to seeing play. Could be a rookie, whatever. I won't limit it. And then someone to watch out for that could surprise some people.
Well, I mean, the easy one for me. Well, I'll go the easy route, I guess. As far as somebody to watch, the quick and easy answer would be Najee Harris. Obviously, he has that Alabama running back pedigree. He's obviously a stud. He's ran really well in preseason. I mean, he's a known commodity. There's people around the league are very high on him. I don't think it'll be a surprise.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to put together a hell of a season, and he's very good out of the backfield, which I think is going to be another big help for, Big Ben and that offense. The linemen as well, they'll be able to, give them a little bit of breathing room having a back like that. A lot of the league is change of pace now. You have your downhill runner and then your little scat back, and he's the whole package. So, excuse me, I'm very excited about him. As far as, I guess, if you listen to the podcast, it's not that big a surprise. I'm the biggest Pat Freiermuth fan, probably, that anyone knows, other than his family, maybe. I don't know.
I think you should have flipped those.
Well, that's why I'm saying I'm excited to see Najee because he's going to start right out the gate. I'm unsure exactly where week one Pat's going to be. He's probably going to still be tight end too. I don't think that's going to last very long. I think that preseason game, him and Big Ben were just gelling, and I think that's going to go a long way. Like I talked before, for Roethlisberger to make that comment that, he reminded him of a tight end they used to have, which is obviously Heath Miller.
We'll talk about him in a little bit.
We will. That is a big compliment coming from somebody who utilized the hell out of Heath Miller.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I would say that's who I'm the most excited and watch out for. I think Najee's going to be huge. I guess lastly, I'll flip it on defense. And I think TJ Watt is obviously TJ Watt, the should-be reigning defensive player of the year. I'm never going to let it go. I think what that's going to do on the other side is really open things up for guys like Ingram. I think Ingram's going to love life just being on the opposite side.
Yeah.
He's going to be able to take advantage of, not being that number one guy on that side. So I'm excited to see our D-line in action. So I guess there you go.
My picks are going to be, I'm most interested to see how Ben plays next year, or I guess this year. And my surprise is going to be Alex on the other side of TJ. I can't remember his last name off the top of my head. It just slipped away.
Oh, Highsmith.
Highsmith, there you go.
Yeah, he's a stud. He's going to be our starter on the other side. I just think Ingram's going to come in and
he'll be a good.
He's going to be our downhill, just eating quarterbacks.
Yeah. So, he's going to be my surprise to watch for, and then, like I said, just Big Ben is going to affect how this team does. Obviously, Najee. I think for him to be a surprise, it would have to be him not doing well.
That's why I didn't want to put him as a surprise, because I think he's already a known,
Yeah.
Potential impact player. So I don't think he's not gonna, have teams saying, "Holy shit, who is this guy?"
Yeah.
They're
So
game planning for him. So
for my Raiders, the thing I'm most watching, I guess, is the offensive line. That's one thing I think is going to dictate how a lot of this season goes. And then, not to be super generic, but I think the thing that's going to surprise people is the defense as a whole. Obviously, I think there's going to be some standouts. Yannick Ngakoue and Max Crosby, I think, are going to dial up the pressure. I think the defensive line on the interior is going to surprise a lot of people because it's basically a completely reworked defensive line. And then I think the addition of, man, my brain is gone today. The guy from Tampa Bay they just signed.
Gerald McCoy.
Gerald McCoy, there we go. Yeah, I think he's going to turn some heads. He basically hasn't played in 2 years.
If he returns to even say 70% of what he was when he first, cracked into the league, he was a stud, man. He was disruptive. He wasn't an Aaron Donald. I'm not saying,
No.
You're getting this crazy player. He was never a numbers guy, but he was just disruptive nonstop in the middle there.
Yeah, well, and he played in that very last preseason game we had, Game 3, and he just played a couple series, but, man, he was on the interior. I couldn't believe some of the moves he was pulling. So if he can carry that over to the regular season against starters, I can't wait to see what they do. So
sometimes just having a new team is enough of a jump start for these guys too. He might just get wild.
And then let's move over to MLB quickly. We're coming close to the time here. So the A's, they lost 10 of 12, and then they won 3 in a row. Lost tonight after they went up. They went up 3-1, then gave up the lead. Caprillion just didn't have it tonight. He hasn't had it in the last probably 6 outings. Then they went up 6-3, and then he gave up a solo shot, 6-4. They brought in the bullpen. Petit gave up a solo shot. They brought in Puck. He walked the first 2 he saw. Then they brought in Diekman, and he gave up the lead, so it was 6-7. And then they gave up one more in the 9th and didn't score again. So pretty frustrating game, especially when you lead 6-3 with the bullpen the way they've been pitching. You have a good feeling about that. But Caprillion, I think he only pitched 4+. He didn't actually record an out in that 5th inning he started. So when you can only go four innings and have to do bullpen the rest of the game, that's going to wear him out. So I'm hoping Blackburn's pitched really well. I'm really hoping Bassett comes back this year and takes the team into the promised land. But not sure how I feel about playoffs. Like every time we come on here, I feel terrible. Then the next time, I feel great. They're only 1.5 games out of the second wild card spot, so I think they'll probably squeak in there as a wild card. Not going to get my hopes up too much, but they have too much talent to not make the playoffs. So
I know.
How are you feeling about your Buccos? I know they've made some moves.
Yeah, we've done a few things. I guess I'll start with the biggest one. Longtime fan favorite, Gregory Polanco. They had not too long ago put him on a large contract, which he was expected to. I think basically they wanted him to be the next Marte and blossom out there in the outfield. And it obviously never happened. Super likable guy. I absolutely love Gregory Polanco, but I also understand why they actually designated him first. He made it all the way through and brought him back, and he played a couple more games. And unfortunately they let him go, but I totally understand the decision. It may probably be the best thing for him. Maybe somebody picks up, because he has one of the best power swings in the league. His exit velocity is unreal. when he hits the ball. So that's kind of been the big problem. A little bit of issues in the outfield as well, but
yeah,
the side of it that does bother me is we brought Cole Tucker up, and for me that ship has sailed. I think they've spent way too much time on him. When we're very strong and shortstop throughout our farm league, so they're playing him in the outfield right now, but that's who they brought up for Gregory, and I'd like to see them move on from him as well, I guess is my point. But as far as how they're doing, one of the guys we brought in was, and I'm probably going to butcher his name, but it's Yoshi Sugo. He's actually been batting wonderfully. I don't know what the deal is, but he's come in and hit really well. I think we're going to have an interesting situation with him. What looked like was going to be a stopgap to finish the year. I wouldn't be surprised if they make him a 1 or 2 year offer to hopefully keep him around for a couple years.
Yeah.
He's played really well. It's been kind of a kickstart to the team. Well, all in all, though, it's same old, same old. I mean,
one
they
thing
play
I
well
didn't
some
like,
games and play terrible others. Go ahead.
I didn't like the send-off that Polanco got. He was getting quite a bit of hate, so that was pretty not good to see.
Some of the fans were treating him very poorly, and that's why I say he's the most likable guy.
Yeah.
I always say infectious, but if you've ever seen the man smile, he has one of the most infectious smiles on the planet. High character. I mean, he's a team player. He's always high energy, whatever. He's a positive person in the dugout, but unfortunately it didn't translate, to his
what's
play.
Gonna happen. So. He's going to sign with the Rays and be a DH that just tears it up in the American League.
Oh, I'm more worried about somebody in division picking him up and then him just figuring it out.
Nah.
Because, that would just be par for the course.
Outfield, I don't think he's going to get picked up by a National League team.
That's true.
So I think it makes a lot of sense if what he does well is hit, if he signs with an American League team. And you never know, they could bring back they could bring the DH to the National League after this next CBA. In fact, I'm kind of scared if there's going to be baseball next year. That's how toxic these negotiations have been. So we'll see what happens with that. But we should be getting our guest, Taryn, coming on here any second now. So let's go to a break. And when we come back, we will have Taryn Christensen, son of should-be Hall of Fame tight end Todd Christensen.
Agreed.
And we'll get some insight on him, and just excited to have him on as a guest. And we'll be right back.
Perfect.